Hello, my name is Nurbek Xakmirzayev. I would like to kind of show my presentation about the situation in Japanese during the COVID-19. What kind of cases they created in order to stop spreading COVID-19 virus. Let's start my presentation. Here we go. Yes, the topic was like Japanese response to the COVID-19 pandemic, a caution and self-restraint based approach. Welcome to our presentation. Let's start from introduction. How Japan responded to and mitigated the spread of COVID-19. And this is the second thing, they created kind of mild lockdown. They organized approach that was non-punitive. Thirdly, Japan has focused on controlling clusters of more than 5 COVID-19 cases and preventing environmental transmission in the 3 CS: closed spaces, crowded spaces, and close contact settings. And finally, most Japanese citizens seem dissatisfied with how the Japanese government has handled the pandemic. The second, we're going to talk about assessment of Japanese national response to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, as far as we can see from the data used in existing comparative studies, Japan seems to have controlled the COVID-19 pandemic relatively well compared to other industrialized democratic countries in Europe and North America, but not as well as many other countries in the Asia-Pacific region. The figure, which we will see at next slides, suggests that Japan has not been able to control COVID-19 infections by the results by the statistic information and related these as effectively as some countries in the Asia Pacific region. However, Japan still controlled the coronavirus better than several developed countries in Europe and North America. Here is the figure. Cumulative confirmed COVID-19 cases and days per million people, as data shown, and there are a lot of countries, Japanese, Germany, United Kingdom, and a comparison of these. Then the second slide, we're gonna talk about the institutional context of Japanese pandemic approach, the strategy for problem solving. Furthermore, this context determines the logic of appropriateness. This section identifies the institutional contextual factors that may have influenced the way the Japanese government manages the COVID-19 pandemic. These factors include institutional constraints on the Prime Minister's leadership, limited administrative capacity, and pandemic unpreparedness, bureaucratic professionalism, and closedness. Institutional constraints on the Prime Minister's leadership. The first institutional factor is institutional constraints on the Prime Minister's leadership. These institutional constraints on the Prime Minister's leadership includes the strong veto power of the parliamentary upper house, the powerful influence of the ruling party on the selection of prime minister, short leadership selection cycles, and the fragmented and decentralized vote gathering, party leadership, and policy making process of the ruling party. The political environmental, the political environment surrounding the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games appeared to influence the somewhat passive initial responses of the Abe Abe administration to COVID-19. In fact, the number of confirmed cases began to rise sharply after the postponement decision was made. Then the second one, limited administrative capacity and pandemic unpreparedness. Existing studies frequently emphasize the importance of government capacity in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Organizational capacity in the public sector has been defined as the government's ability to marshal, develop, direct, and control its financial, human, physical, and information resources. Japan didn't suffer from these viruses, perhaps leading to the Japanese government's lack of preparedness in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. The last one, bureaucratic professionalism and the closedness and as institutional context which may have influenced the Japanese reaction to the pandemic is the structural characteristics of the national bureaucracy. It's well known that the administrative characteristics bureaucracy vary significantly across countries. The modern Japanese bureaucracy has been characterized by a large degree of bureaucratic autonomy and a relative independence from politics in terms of personal matters. Although there have been problems with the relationships between politicians and bureaucrats, including medical experts, such as loose policy coordination between expert meetings and decision makers and politicians that prioritize the interests of the tourism industry ahead of public health. There seems to have been little excessive political intervention or arbitrary political decision-making that ignored scientific evidence by the Japanese government as seen in Brazil and the US. Next, I would like to show you a video about Japanese service sector shrinks amid COVID-19 surge. Let Sorry about that. I will restart the video. The video was about the kind of impacts in the sphere of business in every sphere during the COVID-19. As next, we're gonna talk about Japanese COVID-19 containment policy. It's the expert meeting of scientists, the response headquarters. The cabinet decided to set up the novel coronavirus response headquarters, NCRH, led by Prime Minister Abe on January 30, 2020, when Japan had 11 cumulative confirmed cases. The newly formed subcommittee on novel coronavirus disease control, along with the continued requests for citizens to stay at home, the government launched stimulus packages named Go to Travel in late July and Go to Eat in September. In the MIDST of the second wave of increased cases of new infections. And the government of the Japanese, they organized financial support by creating financial packages. These packages included 1,000 yen, about $935 of individual financial aid, and up to 1 million yen, about $9,350 of the subsidy program for sustaining businesses in 2020. Conclusion, I would, by the way of conclusion, I would say citizens voluntary, they organized kind of, they passed during the COVID-19, like voluntary self-restraint behavior, and they created mild lockdown approach. This both of them are kind of more useful in order to struggle with COVID-19 infection. And it's difficult to compare COVID-19 related outcome measures across countries due to differences in testing policies, testing abilities, and the reliability of COVID-19 related statistics. Thank you for your attention. If any questions, you can contact me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.